Next up is Yogesh from First Republic Bank, and he has a track record of taking new products to market and generating multi-billion-dollar portfolios through growth and engagement marketing. In his talk, he's guiding you through the fundamental shifts occurring right now in the growth marketing ecosystem around data, creative, and privacy. You'll walk away knowing how to choose KPIs and outcomes to support your business in the short and long term. Yogesh, the stage is yours.
Hello everyone, my name is Yogesh Mehra and it's an honor to be here. Today I'll talk about the future of growth marketing. I'll talk about four things there. I'll talk about the fundamental shift. I'll talk about the differentiators between the leaders and the laggards. I'll talk about the KPIs that make sense. And finally, I'll leave you with some of the macroeconomic trends that are happening in the ad world right now and how that affects the growth marketers. So before we get started, let me quickly talk about myself. I have roughly 2 decades of experience across multiple industries, including technology and financial services. I'm an engineer and an MBA by training. I've worked with organizations such as Discover, Twitter, GoDaddy. Right now, I'm a VP of marketing at First Republic Bank, and I manage a lot of the growth marketing aspects. As you might have seen in my headshot, I label myself as a scrappy marketer. And scrappy to me is all about doing more with less. Less resources, less time. Over time, that mindset of getting a campaign in front of the prospect or the client, a campaign that is less than perfect, and getting the learnings quickly, iterating of them, really helps develop that muscle of speed to market. Done over time, it leads to a competitive advantage. So, scrappy marketer it is. Before we get started with the shifts in growth marketing, let me quickly talk about what growth marketing means. If you see the funnel, so growth marketing is sort of the art and science of user acquisition, all the way to managing the life cycle, retaining them, and turning them into advocates. So, how is it different from the traditional marketing? It is actually a continuation of traditional marketing. Traditional marketing is mostly concerned with generating awareness and then acquiring a prospect. Growth marketing runs the spectrum from awareness, acquisition, all the way to retention and referral. So, why did the evolution happen? There are two reasons. One is given the fact that there are no linear buying journeys anymore with a multi-device environment and an unpredictable sort of speed as they go from one stage to the other. Growth marketing has a lot more sophistication to unpack those user behavior aspects. So that's one. The other is the fact that the cost of acquisition is 10 times more than the cost of retention. So it definitely needed a little bit more focus. And that's why the growth marketing kind of came around. When we look at these funnels, I want to be careful here that there is no implication of comparison here. The best growth marketers I know are the ones who take advantage of the synergies and the strengths of traditional marketing and then bring them over into what they are doing and make sure they are kind of working in harmony. Let's go to the shifts now. The first is that of what's happening in the privacy world. And I'll talk about the three undercurrents that are more prevalent. uh, as we talk. As some of you know, over the years, Apple has been at the cutting edge of privacy, and it is making browsing a lot more private. That is going to the next level right now. There are 8 new iOS 14 features that are going to prevent user tracking in some way, shape, or form. The photo access will be limited. That location will not be shared. But the most restrictive feature that's going to affect the ad platforms is the one that will limit how apps track you. Apps will have to specifically get the permission to track you across other websites. So, how does it affect the ad platforms? Let's take an example of Facebook. Facebook can track the user behavior by using pixels, so they know um, after clicking the ad the action you took. Is it abandoned cart? It's a purchase, etc. Not having that information significantly decreases the targeting effectiveness of Facebook ads. So that presents significant headwinds. Let's move on to the next one here that is relatively recent in nature. Uh, Google is going to sunset the third-party cookies from its Chrome browser. Right now, Chrome is a treasure trove of the user graph, because all the information as user hops from website to website is a part of that repository. That will be demised next year. There are a few solutions that are being proposed right now. One is from Google, the other is from some of the other programmatic platforms. So we have to see how that all shapes up or pans out. But that's definitely a headwind. Finally, it's the statutes and the regulations. We all know about GDPR. California Consumer Privacy Act is another one. There are 12 more states in the US and even globally that are coming up with some version of privacy laws. Now, while these three may seem separate, there is kind of an underlying theme here that we can do something about. And that theme is about building trust. How do we build trust? We build trust by having a mechanism for capturing preferences and permissions and consent. Once we have that, we make sure that we implement those in every transaction that we do with the clients, and do it in a way that is transparent and not onerous on the clients. And finally, it is about delivering that trust and transparency over and over again. Over time, if we do that right, that will result in more trust. Customers will trust us with more first-party data, and that is one of the most effective tools of overcoming some of these headwinds. The other trend that we'll see is a lot of product discoveries right now that start with the typed searches and search engine will move over to the voice searches, voice assistants, also called VA in short. So I'll be calling VAs in the rest of the presentation. As you see from the chart, a lot of basic functions have already moved over to VAs. The last mile here is about the shopping. Right now, there isn't a whole lot of trust and sophistication built into VAs for shopping. As that functionality and sophistication evolves, we'll see a lot of ad monetization opportunities that will emerge. New kind of ad formats will emerge in VAs. The good thing is that based on the PwC survey that happened, customers are actually pretty open to listening to the ad if they have some kind of control. 88% said They're okay listening to the ad if they can say skip. 82% said they're okay listening to ad if they can have some kind of preview. Those are those are great insights to know. So a lot more on the ad monetization is something that we'll see. This does have SEO implications as well. The bar for SEO to take a more natural platform agnostic approach is going to get even more important. Enhanced focus on measurement. This is something that's been the theme in growth marketing. I believe this is going to accelerate even more. Incrementality is going to be critical. Um, One of the things that I think will happen in how we think about the attribution and giving credit to each one of the touch points on the path to conversion is that um, a lot of the existing sort of custom attribute models, or the first touch, last touch, etc., are going to transition more and more to data driven attribution, or DDA in short. What DDA does is it's a part of Google Analytics. It allows all the Google platform data and even non-Google platform data to be piped in and appropriately distribute the credits across all touch points on the path to conversion. This is one of the most effective solutions if the piping is done right, that helps us make quick decisions without a lot of analyst investment at our end. And I think we are going to see more and more shift towards the DDA. The limitation of DDA is the fact that it's mostly online. There is still a lot of spend happening in offline, and will continue to happen because we have to meet the users where they are. So you'll see media mix modeling as another technique that will be effectively used as we get the most out of our ROI across online and offline worlds. So these three, if you look at these three, each one of them has their strengths and weaknesses. All of them will work together, and we'll see a lot more of this happening as we go along. The next shift we will see is in the world of marketing technology. Um, Given the pace of automation, what we see is there are a lot of different tools that have been onboarded that are relatively siloed in nature. Uh, there are two problems with that. One is they don't integrate very well with each other. Data management platform is not very well integrated with the email platform, which might not be very well integrated with the content management platform, etc. Second is that that ecosystem is not really well integrated with the user actions. And so that bidirectional view is missing, which makes the tool not as actionable and responsive to user action when we think about the drip campaigns or the trigger campaigns, etc. We'll see a lot of shift that will happen from this siloed thinking to a more integrated approach, where we think about, how do we really orchestrate a campaign, and then backwards solve on what are the tools that are needed and how they talk to each other. Also, I believe just as engineers think about a tech debt, marketers will start thinking about the martech debt and start eliminating the platforms and the tools that don't make sense anymore. Finally, we'll see an explosion of content consumed over connected TV and the ad system that will come along with it. We are at the tipping point of connected TV right now. The technology exists. Um, Viewers don't mind ads, and the completion rate for the ad, because it is non-skippable, is close to 90%. So what's not to like there? So we'll see a ton of ad formats, a lot of new ad technology, programmatic buying, clickable ads, etc., that I expect will be coming in the market in the coming years. Also, I believe the device manufacturer would want to enter the ad business to control the end-to-end experience. Let's talk about some of the differentiators that will separate who comes out at the top with this evolution. It'll be about people focusing on the results and the culture of growth. Let's talk about people and the structure. Uh, the some of the best marketing teams, growth marketing teams, will be the ones who have uh, team members who are more than just marketers. They are business strategists. They know that marketing job is in the service of a larger organization goal. So when we bring the leads or the prospects, they also think about the impact it will have to the operational throughput or the financial metrics, etc., etc. Some of the best teams will have a blend of generalists and specialists. There is no substitute for having an SEO channel specialist, but that will be having SEO, SEM will also be balanced by a journalist that knows how the entire picture comes together for acquisition or life cycle. There will be analysts that are embedded in a way that are sitting in the business unit, but also are connected to the center of excellence in analytics organizations. Is one of the models that we'll see emerging for them to be staying at the cutting edge of analytics. The reporting structure is something that I have seen work a couple of ways. Either the organization, the growth marketing organization, can report to the head of the function, like VP of marketing or product, or it can be a standalone organization of its own. Both structures have their own pros and cons, but I think going one way or the other is a deliberate decision, and that can be the difference between success and failure. Every strong growth marketing team has and will continue to have a product marketing manager who can translate the product into a speak that the users can understand. And then finally, some of the best growth marketing teams have sort of multi-industry experts or multidisciplinary experts, excuse me. And what I mean by that is they have had a broader breadth of experience across multiple industries, across multiple functions, such as marketing and product. I'm an example where I have been in several different functions across several industries, and that has made me an incredibly thoughtful as I think about the trade-offs and the decisions and balance a lot of things in the growth marketing ecosystem. Let's talk about focus on outcomes and results. It will be very important to have a critically and clearly defined success metrics. What does success look like? Based on those criteria, stack ranking the initiatives would make a ton of sense. And having the discipline to not deviate. A lot of the initiatives that are from the highest impact aren't the most glamorous ones, but they are the ones who move the needle. So having tremendous discipline is going to be critical. Finally, creating a culture of growth. If we fail forward, we learn, we iterate, we move on. Creating psychological safety. This is a very important one. Inherent to growth marketers is this strong spirit of experimentation. Experimentation by its very nature means there's a good amount of failure risk that comes with it, right? So being able to create that safe spot where team feels it's okay to run experiments and fail is going to be critical to the success of growth marketer. Having a growth mindset is important. When I say global maxima here, what it means is that not being very pigeonholed in a way that you're optimizing for your line of business, but in the process hurting the bigger picture of the organization, or hurting the larger organizational goals. So maximizing the local rule, the local goals or your own goals, as well as optimizing the global outcomes is something that will be very important as well. And this is something where I feel I see a lot of teams falling short. Let's unpack the KPIs here. One of the, a very strong incentive for driving the user behavior is the goal setting exercise. And KPIs ladder right into that goal setting exercise. The challenge with having a single function KPI is that it leads to bad behavior. And so an example here is if you see the sales and revenues KPI here, it could be number of units sold or the volume of leads, etc., etc. That in and of itself sounds good, but this can result in a scenario where we are getting a lot of the leads at an unsustainable cost, or generating a lot of sales and selling the units that really don't have a lot of profit margin. So it's very important to have a balancing KPI for every KPI. So I heard a lot of people talk about, hey, tell me the one outcome that matters. And I challenge them with the fact that it's the one outcome and it needs a balancing KPI, because that's kind of how we should think about driving the optimal outcome for the business. The other thing that I come across a lot is the question I come across a lot is, what are the right number of KPIs? There is no perfect answer for the exact number. What I will say is some of the scorecards from the best teams I have seen have the total number of metrics. That's a number that's less than 10. I do think what is important is having the KPIs segmented by the micro outcomes with the macro outcomes. So let me talk about an illustration here. So this is a demand gen KPI scorecard. There is a funnel efficiency matrix. That's how effective we are in pulling through the users. There is the cost associated with each one of those, and then there are financial returns measured by LTV to CAC ratio. Put together, they represent a pretty broad swath of all the measurements that are important to the health of the business, and they are less than 10. The last thing I want to talk about is some of the ad spend trends, regional as well as global, and what it means for us. So I found it fascinating to learn that this year's spend is going to be $700 million globally on ads. Over the next few years, we will see that the ad spend will grow by 40 billion a year, mostly contributed by digital. Put it in perspective, the ad spend is 1% of the world's nominal GDP, which is amazing, kind of, when you think about it magnitudinally, and also a good way to was a good way for me to put it in perspective and wrap my head around it. So, ad growth $41 billion a year driven by digital. Here is what the view looks like at a global level. For every $100, this is how the money gets spread across different players in the ecosystem. 41 of every $100, 41 goes to digital and 35 goes to television, right? And then print, outdoors, and radio. Now see how this changes when you kind of break it by geos. In the US, digital is 54 versus television being half of that, right? And then when you see in Latin America, it's the exact opposite. So one of the things as we think about the growth marketing is um, it's important to know that growth marketing should be channel agnostic. It is about acquiring, retaining, and turning them into advocates, regardless of what the channel is. And it has to be customized to geos because of the spend patterns and the user behaviors that we see. One size does not fit all. And the and never forget about the force multiplier effect that growth marketers have with the traditional marketing. That was a lot of content that I shared. I'm sure there are some questions, some thoughts that you might have. I'm here to help in any way I can. Thank you very much for your time and attention today. I appreciate it.